Our fifth speaker, before we have a very short break, is a research scientist, works for the Natural History Museum and Imperial College. He studies the ecology of rainforests, so understandably his heroes are Charles Darwin and Richard Feynman. But more importantly, he's made me understand there's probably more to nature than looking at fairly obscure celebrities sitting in a plastic bath covered in bugs. So ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together and welcome David Jones.
At the age of 19, my great aunt Martha, who lived in Tregaron near Aberystwyth, married Arthur Jenkins, age 20, her childhood sweetheart. They had a weekend honeymoon in Swansea. 6 weeks after that, Abel Seaman Jenkins was in the North Atlantic. His ship was torpedoed and he died, along with most of the other crew. Ladies and gentlemen, those were the dark days of 1940, when Britain stood alone against the might of Nazi Germany. Young men, many of them barely out of their teens, were sent to war. Churchill said that the Battle of the Atlantic was vital to our survival throughout the whole of the war. Britain, this small island, couldn't produce enough homegrown resources. So to fight the war, every week we had to import by sea about 1 million tons of food and raw materials. And Hitler sent hundreds of U-boats to attack our convoys. By the end of the war, in the Battle of the Atlantic, the Allies had lost over 3,500 merchant ships and 175 warships. And over 72,000 Allied sailors had lost their lives. Sailors were vital to the war effort, and the Admiralty were desperate to improve survival rates for those crews who went into the sea when their ships were hit. Their research turned up a really interesting, startling finding, that the survival rates amongst older sailors was significantly higher compared to the survival rates for younger sailors. And this sounded counterintuitive. They assumed that the young, fit men would last longer. But when they interviewed the survivors, the older, more experienced sailors had the tenacity and the fortitude to hang on until they were rescued. And they explained that some of the younger men assumed that they would not survive the perils of being adrift in the sea, and they gave up hope and slipped away. What did the Admiralty do about it? They set up a month-long survival training course to toughen up new recruits. They were put through open water immersion exercises, life raft drills, and most importantly, they received mentoring from experienced sailors. And it worked. Survival rates improved dramatically. The course was so successful that after the war, it became the foundation for what is now the international organization Outward Bound. The lesson from that wartime experience and from Outward Bound is that people are not born tough. Toughness, or the mental and physical resilience to overcome tough times, can be learnt. Let me give you just one modern example from the business world. In the UK, figures suggest that around about 50% of new businesses fail within the first year, and 90% fail within 3 years. Now, obviously running your own business is not a matter of life and death like being in a torpedoed ship, but it does require hard work, it can be very scary, and you've got to have staying power. But business resilience can be learned. The Prince's Trust runs the enterprise program and helps young people set up their own businesses. And they provide help with writing a business plan, free seminars and an advice line, and most importantly, mentoring on business skills for 2 years. 56% of those businesses supported by the enterprise program are still trading after 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, with the right experience, training and mentoring, we can all develop our reserves of business and emotional resilience. And let me just end on a happy note. 8 years after the Second World War, my Auntie Martha married another Navy man. She obviously liked the uniform. And I'm sure that their wartime experiences improved their resilience to life's ups and downs and contributed to their 28 years of happy married life together.